Cheers, my love.
We need like a tea time.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Well, it could be morning for them.
Good morning. Good afternoon. And in case I don't see you, no, it's, I don't know what he says.
Our mic is on the way. We told you last tea time that we were going to have a mic because our vaulted ceilings in our house make it super echoey. So we're sorry. The mic is coming and it's just going to get better.
It will.
Right?
We're going to speak loudly and clearly, and there will be a slight echo due to our vaulted ceilings. But next week it'll come in crisp.
Okay, they don't care. Move on.
They do care.
They don't care.
Okay. Anyway, happy whatever it is, morning, afternoon, in case I don't see you, good night. We are here for our team time where you get to hear about all the raw, juicy,
You said
nitty,
team time again.
gritty.
Quit trying to change the name. Tea time.
Tea time. Tea time.
Oh my.
Look, we just put our kids to bed. You know how it is. We're a little tired. Okay, we're doing all right.
I'm concerned that you aren't pronouncing words correctly.
It's kind of a tongue twister. It's an alliteration.
Tea time.
Tea time.
Tea time.
Tea time.
Say it 5 times fast.
Tea time. Tea time. Tea time. Tea time. Tea time. See, I'm perfectly fine. Clean bill of health from the doctor.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
one of the topics for today is we wanted to share what?
I'm scared. What's the topic?
Well, we wanted to talk about just how you're doing health-wise.
Oh.
Sharing, some vulnerable things that we don't always like to talk about, but it's probably also just good for us to talk about it. Even me.
Yeah. Well, it's my birthday month. It's currently January.
Barely.
Barely what?
Well, it's almost not January.
Right. And I've been to the ER twice this month. So that's not been super fun. I really held out the first time of trying to not go. And I got past 2 days. And then on that third day, I was so sick. I thought it was food poisoning or the stomach bug or something like that. It was the most intense pain I've ever been in. And I've had babies without medication. So that was kind of crazy. And yeah, it was fine, that ER visit. I mean, there was like a couple things that they had said, like they found stones in my gallbladder and said that I had a slight elevated UTI as if I was getting ready to have a UTI, but I had zero symptoms. I've never had a UTI, at least not one that I've known of. Never had any symptoms of like your typical UTI. So it was super strange, but it was almost like they didn't even want to mention it, so it was like not a big deal. Well, then fast forward, I was on like a mom/birthday/ we need my baby a breastfeeding getaway, like a local staycation, and I was totally having a great time with a girlfriend, and in the middle of the night woke up with 160 heart rate, and I was asleep. Like it woke me up, and it was really scary. I felt so silly asking my sweet friend who's on a mom getaway to take me to the ER, but I couldn't get it to come down. It just kept rising, and it actually stayed at 120 in the ER for like 6.5 hours, which they didn't seem to be super concerned about, but obviously not normal. And so they did confirm that I had a UTI. It was about 2 weeks apart, 2.5 weeks apart, and that there were some stones that were present in my gallstone, but again, gallbladder. No real symptoms of either. So anyways, you guys, I'm a researcher just by nature, and it's a blessing, and sometimes it feels like a curse because I just go into research mode and reading just different studies and what this does and what herbs best for this. And so I was on a parasite cleanse before I went to the ER that second time, and I paused it because I did antibiotics for 7 days. I've never done that before, but I was like, okay, we got to get ahead of this. And so I started back up on my parasite cleanse. I'm taking this thing called Stone Breaker. If you've ever had gallstones, please tell me in the comments, because I'd love to know what you did. But I'm taking like the stone.
Besides remove your gallbladder.
Well,
besides that.
if you did do that, I would still love to hear your story. I would ideally like to keep mine, but yeah, I'm doing the parasite cleanse. I'm doing the stone breaker. I'm doing oregano as like an extra, get rid of any kind of bacteria that the antibiotics didn't.
I think you need to highlight a little bit more of like the story portion though.
What's the story?
Well, just in the sense that, not to make any assumptions, but we don't really like going to the ER. I don't know anybody that likes to go to the ER or the doctor. We rarely visit the doctor. And so that first time that we went in the new year, the first go around, like you were having stomach pain that had you curled up into a ball.
Yeah.
Like she woke up at, 11 o'clock or something like that, curled up into a ball, cold sweats, woke up, almost passed out. You were vomiting, and then
other things.
Other things, and extreme tightness in your chest. I think the tightness in your chest was like the stomach was extremely uncomfortable, and you could tell that it wasn't good. But that in combination with heavy chest constriction to the point that she felt like she couldn't breathe with a rapid heart rate. Mm-hmm. I think that was kind of like the clincher, so to speak, in terms of like the deciding factor that, okay, we need to play this safe, and unfortunately it's not the middle of the day. We don't really have another option being it's so late.
And you guys, like, our kids are asleep. We don't have a sitter. We have neighbors, but who wants to call them at midnight? So Perris literally just drops me off at the ER. Like, I don't want him to bring the kids in. I don't want them to have to stay there. There's not really anything they can do for me.
Yeah.
But it did feel, a little like, oh my gosh, here we go. Like having to do some things on my own that, you want to have someone with you, but I also didn't want my kids in the ER all night. So, I'm like, Perris, please just take them home. So yeah.
No. So anyway, difficult, but we're figuring it out. So anyway, you were saying kind of where you're at.
Yeah, not a lot of answers yet. I had an EKG done, came back normal. I had a CT scan with contrast the second time that I went.
Which was helpful, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, everything's great. But I have some follow-up appointments, and I'm meeting with a holistic MD on Monday and hoping to do like a Dutch test and a hormone panel, and just to make sure like everything is functioning and working, because I want to have longevity for my kids. But anyways, it's just frustrating, just to start off my birthday month and the new year, like not feeling 100%, especially when you have kids. Like, that being sick one day is awful when you have children, let alone like multiple days and multiple weeks where you're not able to do things that you normally are. Like, I wasn't able to sleep flat until just a few nights ago. Yeah. I went over 20 something days before I could sleep flat because my heart rate would just like raise. So I actually prayed through some of that. There's a book called Exposing Spiritual Roots to Spiritual Disease, and I like walked through a little bit of what that book teaches, and I actually think it helped. It was a pretty quick, like 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
And I also think there could have been a few things that were going on. Like, it could have been a stomach bug plus something else plus like, who knows? Anyways, I'm drinking dandelion root tea, apple cider vinegar every day. And I'm trying to do just all the things, guys. So if you think about me, pray for me. No. I'm going to be fine. It's going to be great. I'm healthy and whole and healed. But just having to do some of these appointments and do some of these things is just, sometimes it feels like you're wasting your time, or you're spending time at places you don't want to. I guess that's what it feels like. So
we're working on figuring that out is the point. So we're declaring healthy and whole and all that stuff, but also not stupid is what I say. So exploring options, that checking off boxes, making sure that things are as they should be, because clearly they are not right now. If you can't sleep flat for multiple nights in a row and having repetitive symptoms like that, we want to make sure that figure that out. But it has gradually been getting better.
It has. My chest stuff has been, and the pain was like from here to here. It wasn't just in one localized spot. It was like all the way across, and it really just felt like
something compressing.
Yeah, like I had a weighted vest just on my chest, like, and that was what was weird. And so I was like, is it GERD? Is it esophagus issues? Is it acid reflux? Like, there's so many things, right? And you don't want to Google, and that's what I do. And it's never.
You don't want to do this, but this is what I do.
It's never a good idea. Anyways, if you have any tips, you guys, please in the comments. I'm doing 2 drops of like really potent oregano internally 3 times a day to really combat if there's like any kind of bacteria that's deep-seated or whatnot. So anyways, I'm trying to do all the things.
Well, so little status update, you know.
I'm not about that.
Yeah, but still, it's real. So prayers appreciated, all that stuff.
How did you feel dropping me off at the ER? Like what? I don't even think I asked you your perspective of.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit scary. I think I had still this peace that it was going to be okay.
I could be dying and he would have a peace.
That is not true.
I could literally be like, I'm having a heart attack, I'm dying. And he'd be like,
I don't know. There's been instances in our life, and I won't go into specific examples, where I feel like I have known, not that I doubt her, but where I have known, like, okay, like, we need to do something about this, and we need to do it now. And that was something I still thought that we needed to address, but how can I say it? I felt like the piece that there is going to be a solution or things are going to get better was present at that time. So it has been difficult. I'm not going to say woe is me when she is the one that's having the acute symptoms, but dads, if you ever had where your wife is out of commission. I was just talking to a friend of mine today where his wife was out of town, and that's a little bit different. But when you have a member of your team who is, whether it's down and out completely or at a lower percentage of capacity, then you've got to pick up slack. And so it has, in addition to,
you really just missed my work.
in addition to the care that I had and concern for what was going on, there was also an element of, for me, okay, it's go time, got to pick up slack, all that stuff. So did I have concern dropping her off? Absolutely. And it was a bummer that she had to go a second time. That was even
you guys,
more
I've
bummer,
been to the
because
ER.
she didn't tell me she was going in. She was away, and I didn't find out until the morning, and she had gone in at night.
Yeah, but it was also 1 a.m. by the time I got there the second time. They were all asleep. I'm like, I'm not going to wake. What are they going to do? I don't want him to bring the kids. It doesn't make any sense.
I hear you, and I appreciate the practicality.
I felt hopeful in that one. I'm like, okay, well, we're here. Like, we're going to figure this out. And I even told my friend, like, please go home or go back to our hotel and sleep. And I didn't want to text him until, it was only a few hours. I knew you'd be up at like 5:30. So I was like, I'll just text him when I know he's awake. Yeah. I'm not going to interrupt his sleep. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But anyway, we are believing, we are hopeful, but we're also trying to be pragmatic and wise in our approach. Yes.
I'm going to be healthy and whole. Honestly, it was probably just like the kindness of God to reveal to me, a minor UTI or some small stones to take care of now rather than have these for years and not know. Because I had, again, no symptoms, you guys. So I'm okay with that. It would have been nice not to go to the ER, but yeah. I've been 3 times since September. It's only January. The first 4 times?
4 times.
Oh, because of the miscarriage. I had to go 2 times. Oh my gosh, how awful is that? September, October, November, December, January. I've been 4 times in 5 months. Okay, let's move on because, I don't like talking about all these things.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Anyways, talk about something happy.
Something happy. We went to the beach today. It was really nice.
Yeah, we just walked to the beach right before dinner.
Yep. But I think one of the other considerations that we are making in the season of life is, are we serving our kids as well as we can from an educational standpoint?
Oh, you're supposed to talk about something positive.
They're doing great. We have smart kids.
Yeah, you guys, homeschooling this year has just been different, and I'm having to swallow so so much pride and just so much of what I thought things were going to look like.
There's some wins, but there's some woes. We said
homeschooling with a 1-year-old, and then trying to school a 6-year-old and then an 8-year-old, so kindergarten, 2nd grade. Wow. I mean, this is my 4th year of homeschooling, but this year is like, I don't know. Like, I have to call him and like, hey, I need a pep talk, because it's just difficult with multiple kids in different grades, and then you have a small one that's like really into everything. And
if you've seen Rush on our channel, he is the cutest thing ever. The kid smiles, he laughs, he's most often in a good mood. He's thrown some more tantrums recently, I've noticed, because he's getting a little bit of an opinion on him. But he's also in that stage of being in everything and exploring everything.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, I'm not even here all the time, but I can only imagine, like, when I'm chasing him around, making sure that, I always joke, he's in the stage of life right now where I have to save his life about 20 times a day. And it's like, okay, we're not going to do that, so on and so forth. So anyway, all I have to say is that, you know, she's trying to have time to homeschool our kids while watching a 1-year-old, which really leaves nap time as the only time is uninterrupted.
And that's kind of changing now because he's coming to that 15-month mark. Anyways, I'm probably preaching to the choir of those of you who have multiple kids and totally understand. I'm not complaining. I'm grateful. I'm thankful to be able to have this time with my kids, but it's been challenging. One of the things I've noticed with homeschooling this year specifically has been my kids want to be around other kids while they're doing work. Now, we meet up on Mondays through what's called a classical conversations group, and it's great. And my kids love that because they're around other kids. I'm in the classroom with the tutors that are teaching, and I'm helping. But after Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they don't want to just do school with their sibling and mom. They want other kids. And so that's been really a different thing to navigate, because I honestly haven't had this issue prior to this year. And I don't know why that's...
I think you're also reaching a level where their capacity is naturally increasing. And so in past years, it's been kind of like, okay, let's do a couple minutes of this and a couple minutes of that. You know, whereas this year it's like the intensity and their ability should continue to rise in terms of like, we're going to do this for X amount of time and this for X amount of time. And there's plenty of ways to make it fun, but it does require an additional amount of discipline from both the kids and you to be able to sit down and, you know, get that stuff done. So, you know, it's taking on, I think, another level of seriousness, so to speak, that's has a higher level of demand from all parties involved. So anyway, so those are just things that we're also praying about, just like, what are systems that we have in place, schedules that we have in place, routines that we have in place, from as simple as like, hey, we really need to not do any kind of even maybe Bible story screen time in the morning because it's ruining their expectation for anything after. Because, you know, they're, whatever it is, we're feeding something that they really want to do, and then that's followed by something that they may not want to do as much. So we need to change that, you know, and then getting into a routine where, hey, this is your expectation for the rest of the day. We're going to do a morning chore cleanup after breakfast. Yes, you're responsible. Yes, you're involved. And that, you know, goes into this time so that they have a good expectation, because, you know, not to knock you, but in just the moving process and the new place process and the new things and all that kind of stuff, it's like we have been a little bit delayed in terms of, you know, digging in terms of, you know, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what this looks like.
There's not been like a crazy harsh schedule because we like to be flexible. Like, we live in a beautiful part of Florida. If it's warm out, we might want to go to the beach. If, you know, there's a play date available, we might want to go do that because my kids want to be around other people. Not to say that we're not around other people. We are around people all the time. But when it comes to those educational hours, we're just trying to figure that out and be flexible to what is best for each kid. So we are really craving more time with other kids. doing educational things. And in the area that we live in, it's actually the most rural, I said this last time, but it's like the most rural area, but it's also, I think it's growing so quickly that people are still trying to figure out like what do they do when they come here, and there's not a lot of options in the homeschool community. I take that back. There's a few options, but it's either go 4 or 5 days a week to a homeschool thing or do 1 day a week. And we are kind of like, we need something in the middle for our kids is what it would be ideally.
Ideal.
Ideal, yeah. So we'll figure it out. It's woes of homeschooling. Everybody has these. And Rush has also been in this like interesting, he's in this phase where he doesn't just like play. He wants to be held. He wants a snack. He's pointing at this. He's pointing at that. He's getting, I mean, it's not like I can just let him make a mess and he'll be happy. He's very needy. And again, that's okay.
What are the wins of homeschooling, do you think? Those are the difficulties. What do you think? Any wins of homeschooling? Maybe for people who might be considering it.
I mean, there's a lot of wins. The list it's incredible when you're able to educate your kids and you're able to honestly shelter them and cover them for as long as possible, when you get to be the main decision maker of what they're learning and how they're learning. And there's so many beautiful things to homeschooling. I can't speak, highly enough of it.
What's your top 3 favorite things that you would highlight about being able to
I like
homeschool?
knowing exactly what my kids are learning.
Yep.
I like being able to teach them things that I want them to know about, like the Bible, or we learned about frequency in music and just like fun topics, essential oils, like health, things that they're not going to talk about in a maybe typical classroom. Those are my favorite things.
Yeah.
The flexibility, just being able to watch them grow. Is really cool, and being able to meet their individual needs because they're their own person, and not everyone learns the same.
Yeah.
So
I would say too, you get to be the primary influencer over their lives, and that's not to say that going to school is not good.
No.
I'm just saying those are definitely the pros.
There's great influencers in schools and stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that,
but it's hard. It can be very hard.
It's been so hard this week, and maybe if we had family around, it would be different. But I don't know, you guys. Anyways.
Yep. What about like you were talking about? A lot of people say social interaction, like friendships, as a concern, like within homeschooling. What's your take on that? I
think homeschool kids are some of the most socially connected kids. Now, like when I was growing up, I only knew of a few homeschoolers, and you have all these stigmas of like they don't get social interaction and that baloney. Homeschool kids these days get more social interaction, I think, than kids who have to be quiet and sit in a classroom, for so many hours a day. My kids they're so social and super little social butterflies. But, and this doesn't have to do with the homeschool community, but one of the things that's been an interesting challenge and thing to navigate as a parent this year, really the past 2 years, but specifically this past year with a certain child, has been navigating like relationships with, let's just call it 6 to 9 year olds. And I've learned a few things. Like one of the things that I've learned is your kids are listening. And so whatever you talk about, your kids are going to hear. So if you don't like someone and you're talking about them, your kids are going to overhear that. Or if you say something funny about someone that is like, it's not mean or unkind, but it might be something you don't want repeated, don't say it around your children, because they're going to come and tell them, okay? There have been multiple things that I've heard that has nothing to do with me, but because I've heard kids interacting with my kids and I've heard things they've talked about, I'm like, oh, they just shared some information maybe they shouldn't have known. And so we've had some instances in the past 2 years where I've really had to walk some of my kids through forgiving other kids for what their parents said. And that's been an interesting dynamic. And I'm totally the kind of mom that will like call the mom up or text the mom, hey, can we chat? and then have a conversation. And, you know, kids are going to be kids, and girls will be girls, and boys will be boys. And I never want to shy away from tough conversations. But I also don't want to create this thing like, well, they said this, we're cutting them off. I don't want to teach my kids that. I don't want to teach my kids like, I bet they didn't mean that. Let's go find out what they meant by that.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that to add to that is, you know, we try our best. If we feel that it's a topic that's within the context of their control, then we want to empower them to be able to handle that themselves. So if it's something that they got offended by because their friend said something to them that they didn't like, then our first go-to is, well, why don't you go talk to them about that? This is how you might approach it.
Yeah.
But if it goes beyond, like you're saying, where, you know, we have to make a judgment call of, is this beyond the capacity of our kids at their current age?
Yeah.
Then yes, okay, it's definitely time to, you know, address those things.
I'll give you one example. This was over a year ago now, but one of our children and another child traded a toy, and the trade was not fair, as most of these kid trades are not fair, okay? And so our kid had traded with this other kid, and what that other kid gave our kid was like a birthday present that they had just gotten. It wasn't a super expensive or crazy or whatever kind of gift, but it was special and it was new. And as a parent, I would be like, oh, that was kind of a bummer, you know, trade. But what happened was the little girl that traded with one of our kids got upset, went to her parents, said, so-and-so took this and only gave me this, whatever they had traded. And the dad said, that little devil. Well, then that little girl goes back and says, my dad called you a devil. So I'm like, hold on a second. Oh, what? So I messaged that mom, yo, not like that. I was like, hi, this is Nicole. But inside, I'm like, yo, your husband called my kid a devil, and like, what's up with that? And like, why are you even saying that around your child? Obviously, it was a little mixed up, but my point in saying all of this is be careful what you call people's kids, and like, don't talk about families and kids around your kids. Like, we always try to make it a habit to talk positively about people. Mm-hmm. Wow, we really love the joy that they have. Wow, we really love the hospitality. We really love this about them. They're so kind and tender. We try to do the opposite, you know? Mm-hmm. Anyways.
Yeah. No, it's important. It's taken on a new level where we're discovering that as our kids age, obviously their capacity for understanding things, it's going beyond just questions. I felt like before, you know, they would ask and be like, well, what does that mean? And so sometimes that would actually give you an opportunity to fix the mistake that you made and be like, oh, Dad meant to say this, you know, and so you re-explain. But now they have this higher level of understanding where it's like, you're not always going to get that second chance to correct whatever you said. Yeah. Now that it's out there, they're going to take that information, and then you don't know what they're going to apply it to. If it happens to be a friend of theirs and it's something negative, you know, then that can obviously have negative connotations that can go to their parents and bounce back to you. So anyway, we're just finding that how our own attitudes, our own expressions, is carrying into our kids' language directly, you know, and that has ripples, has the potential.
And it hurts their hearts, you know. Like, I always try to teach our kids, let's believe the best about them. I bet they didn't mean to say it that way, or I bet you heard that the wrong way, or I bet that's not what they said. Sure. So to teach them to believe the best, but then also to let them know, oh, we're going to go and investigate. We're going to get curious and find out what did they really mean to say, versus coming across as an upset parent or, oh, really, they said what to you? Well, I don't like them anyways. Like, we don't do that, you know, like he and I might have some. So anyways, we just try to teach our kids to believe the best about people, because stewarding their hearts right now is just really important. And their hearts get hurt. You know, they hear things, they feel things, they don't always understand things, but it's just important that we try to do that better.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, there's a level, you know, there's obviously we want to believe also what our kids are saying. So like she said, being curious, or what do you think they meant by that, exploring kind of what they're processing, you know, inside, and then allowing them to share their real thoughts so that we can, you know, then digest it ourselves and give them feedback, because
Yeah.
there are certain cases where, you know, our son will come home and tell us a story about something that happened, and sometimes it's believable enough where it's like, they said what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got to like take a step back and be like, well, okay, what do you think that meant?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, did they seem angry with you, or were they giving you a warning? You know, so there's certain things where I've got to step back and then investigate myself a little bit more as to what's the context of the story, because if I take your information and jump into some other situation without enough evidence, then, you know, we're all going to be in trouble, including my frustration at my son for whatever he said and may have misinterpreted.
And we've only been parents for 9 years. Like, we have a lot to learn. We honestly are bringing you along in this process of parenting and raising up kids who we want to be emotionally and spiritually healthy. And so if these tea times continue on, I mean, it's weird to think like we have one child who's not far from being a teenager.
Yeah.
4 years.
He's still got some time. 4 years, you know.
Mentally,
that's almost half of his life.
Anyways, we want to bring you in and share things with you, because there's a lot of things that we didn't know as parents and things that we're just learning along the way. And honestly, there's something to be said about someone that's 10 years older than you or 5 years older than you that's in a different kid stage that you can learn from. We have parent mentors that we ask all the questions to and try to become better parents ourselves. And so, anyways, yeah, I'm always going to be transparent and share with you all if it's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really the purpose. I don't know if we've stated that, but the purpose for these times is it allows us to kind of, I mean, for me even sometimes to process. I tend to process things inwardly quite often, and so allowing us to outwardly process in a way that is hopefully relatable.
This is like your therapy time? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's team time.
Oh, this is interesting. You want to like start processing things outwardly during this time?
Well, I mean, I have to.
Wow.
It's verbal.
What else do you want to process? Let's talk about
And
Perris.
with that, we're gonna be ending the session.
Let's talk about Perris. What's going on internally with you these days?
Oh, let me tell you about my feelings. I've got so many feelings inside.
You're allowed to have feelings.
Thank you.
Don't be
Dr.
a bottled
Nicole.
up dad.
I'm not. So
Get
I'm
it
saying
out.
I'm getting
Cry.
it out right now.
Cry right now.
Funny quick story if you don't know this about us, and many of you
I
do.
don't want to hear a funny story.
Yes,
What
they
is
do.
it?
So, for our wedding,
Lord.
when she walked down the aisle, I did not cry. Okay. Now I think I teared up a little bit, and it was an emotional time.
You did not.
But I did not cry.
Lie.
And so I will never live this down. And she always says, you know, every wedding that we go to, she'll put, you see, he cried. He cried.
I didn't even think about it on our wedding day, nor did I have an expectation for him to cry. It was when we started going to everyone else's weddings, I was like, hold on a second. He's tearing up. Mark's his love for this woman is so great. He, you know, his eyes are watering. And then like the next wedding, totally sobbing. The next wedding, I'm like, wait a second. I wasn't concerned and now I am. Like, you didn't shed a tear. I mean, you...
No. See, okay, so anyway, so my point is that...
If you cried at your wedding, please put it in the comments.
So
if your husband cried at the wedding, please put it in the comments.
So,
We'll find out.
I didn't cry at our wedding. We've already established this. So now I told her that the pressure's on. Because, you know, if I didn't cry during such a monumental moment... I can't cry now.
Oh,
because then it'd be equated to being more emotional than my wedding
that's not
day.
true. You need to cry.
So I'm never allowed to cry again. I missed my opportunity to cry.
Get it out.
I can't do it now.
Well, you better get it out because one day you're just going to explode.
Oh my
It's not going to be good.
I just have water everywhere coming out of my body.
Yeah, you need to.
Anyway, we hope this tea time has been helpful.
Is there anything else that you want to share with the people?
And that you know, there are some relatable elements.
I really like this shirt on you.
Oh, thank you. Maybe I'll take it off later. And you know that I don't know. You distracted me. I don't know. This concludes our time. Thank you so much for thank you so much for tuning in for Tea Time with Nicole and Perris.
I feel like I just
we'll be back.
complained the whole time.
Well, what do you want to do about that?
Did you share anything?
I did. I shared my response to, your ER visits.
Sad.
I shared the wins and the woes of homeschooling.
Sad.
No, the wins are not sad. You said the top 3 reasons for why you love it. Right?
Was that the only positive thing?
And then we talked about friendships and how we're working on
It was also
how we
sad.
speak to our kids. That's not sad. That's informative. It's self-reflective.
Okay.
It is behavior.
Oh, it snowed in Florida.
Oh yeah.
A lot.
Okay, we could talk.
We don't have to talk about it, but it snowed. That's
It did.
cool.
It did. Well, it was like a record snow. So we've talked to plenty of locals, and people were shooting about like, oh, it hasn't snowed, in Florida since whatever year, 1989. But to my knowledge, it has not snowed to the extent that it snowed here, as long as people can remember.
Yeah. Also, the kids started jujitsu, and Rosella's trying out a dance studio, just for fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of positive, fun updates.
Those are fun.
Positive
We're about to
Nicole's
start baseball. Pray for us, people. We're trying to make some decisions. We're going to talk about this next time.
What?
Some decisions about just the level of involvement for our kids in sports as a family of 7.
You know what? We just do what we can with what we have until we don't like it anymore, and then we change.
What if they like it all, but it's too much?
Then we have to have that discussion.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So we need wisdom as to what level of involvement do we, have our kids in extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
I think that's, a decent consideration.
Yeah. That's true. Okay. Want a tea time meet? Thanks for coming.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Until next week. These are released every single week. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Our YouTube channel is a YouTube channel for the whole family. We have kid videos that are great for your kids, and then these videos that are great for you.
Boom.
So